What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, before I get into this video, as always, I'd like to remind you guys that if you want to donate to this channel, if you want to show love to this channel, you can do so in the links provided in the description box below, if you want to. Now, I want to talk about Andre Iguodala again. I did a video yesterday talking about Andre Iguodala's comments regarding a past injury that he had and how he felt the Warriors came out with a different interpretation or a different description of the injury that he actually had, and how he felt pressured by teammates, the organization, and the media to play in the finals despite having an injury that was more severe than what the Warriors put out there. Now, I saw today that he put out, quote unquote, a clarification. And to me, I just felt like that was just pressure for him to backtrack on what he actually said. It's just my opinion. Um, and yeah, you can walk on a fractured leg. I remember, was it back in 2000, I think it was, when Kenyon Martin, when he was still in college, he fractured his leg in the game and he walked off on his own power. A lot of people think, like, even me, when I think of a fractured leg, right, I think of a motherfucker get up and that bitch just collapse on him and break to the side and shit. Um, but, that's just with a clean break, but getting back to this video, the point is, I want to talk more about what he said about Mark Jackson. Of course, Mark Jackson was Steve Kerr's predecessor on this team, the Warriors. And while Steve Kerr gets all the glory, as he should, I mean, he's been at the helm of their championship years. It was Mark Jackson who more or less built the pieces, the foundation upon which Steve Kerr gets all the glory. Mark Jackson was the coach that buffered the transition between them being a poor to mediocre franchise to becoming the elite team of the NBA. When Mark Jackson was there, they became a good team, but not quite yet a championship caliber team. And of course, Mark Jackson ultimately was fired by the Golden State Warriors, and he has not been able to get another gig in the NBA, which is kind of surprising. Um, you would think the guy like him would be able to get another coaching job. I'm trying to think of a comparable situation. Well, Doug Collins. Doug Collins was the coach that coached Michael Jordan and pushed Michael Jordan. He was the first. Phil Jackson was the coach that really pushed Jordan to that championship level, but Doug Collins was the one that was the first really challenged Air Jordan. Doug Collins' issue was that he just couldn't handle, at that particular time in his life, at least, he couldn't handle the pressures of being a coach of a superstar, a coach of a big market city like Chicago. He couldn't handle a lot of things that went with it. But he was the coach, the buffer, as I said, between the, rather ineffective coaches in the early part of Jordan's career and the Jackson era, which of course is one of the greatest dynasties of all time. So, but Doug Collins was able to get other coaching gigs. I remember he coached the Detroit Pistons for a good spell, and he also, of course, was the coach of the Washington Wizards, last coach that Michael Jordan ever had in the NBA, from 2001 to 2003. So why hasn't Mark Jackson been able to get another chance? Andre Iguodala theorizes that he's been blackballed. We've been hearing this for quite some time. You listen to what Andre Iguodala said in an interview with the Breakfast Club. I haven't said that he was interviewed with the Breakfast Club with Charlamagne tha God. He was saying that some people aren't very good at playing politics. And of course, when I instantly heard that, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys, when you heard that, I'm thinking, yeah, basically, he's not a good liar. He can't fake the funk. Mark Jackson is who he is, and he's going to present that. Now, we've all heard about how Mark Jackson is a very religious man, tends to wear his religion on his sleeve. And we've heard stories of Mark Jackson delivering sermons in the locker room. One of the long-standing rumors isn't been proven. One of the long-standing rumors is that someone within the Warriors organization is homosexual, and that Mark Jackson's views on homosexuality got to this individual, and that eventually led to friction and Mark Jackson's eventual ouster, and that basically uh, Mark Jackson being ostracized by the owners of the NBA has a lot to do with the fact that his personality is not, in my opinion. I'm just gonna keep it 100 with you. I'm gonna keep it raw. That's my name, right? I think Mark Jackson isn't one of those step and fetch it niggas. Like most of the coaches in the NBA who are African American, to me, I think they're very good at kissing ass. You know what I'm saying? Um, they look at that paycheck, they look at the opportunity that's presented with that title, and they swallow their pride and kiss ass and all that. And I think Mark Jackson's not one of those guys. Mark Jackson sees himself as a man like anybody else, and he has certain viewpoints that he's not going to hide for anybody. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well, not just the religious aspect of it. Although in these times that we live in, being religious is increasingly becoming a crutch because of the growing power of the liberal establishment and the growing power of, in this situation, the LGBTQ community. So religion is anathema to these people because religion pretty much states that these people are damned. They're going to be going, they're damned to eternal damnation, whatever. I don't want to make this video into that, but I have to go there to explain partially why Mark Jackson is seen as, to borrow a phrase from Kevin Durant, toxic to the NBA as far as owners are concerned. Mark Jackson, I think, is smart enough to keep his religious views to himself. I think if he was presented with the opportunity again to coach in the NBA, he would be a little bit more strategic and hiding, or at least keeping his religious views to himself. You never really hear him go on a sermon when he's broadcasting. But what I do think that is lost in this is, and this is what I think Iguodala was saying and some other people saying, Mark Jackson is probably the guy who gave that team the confidence that's needed to be a champion. We have to remember, for a very long time, and this is all to people who are under the age of 25, because if you're under 25, over the age of 25, excuse me, because if you're under 25, then you're not going to really remember what I'm talking about. The Warriors used to be a joke franchise. They've had their spots here or there over the last 30 or something years. Okay, you had Run TMC. You had that famed run of that team back in 2007 that beat the first seeded Dallas Mavericks, that 67 win team back in 2007. We've seen that team, the team that had Baron Davis and Steven Jackson, Jason Richardson, um, Geez, I can't remember the other players on the team right now, off the top of my head. I think they had a big man too, but it was a great collection of talent that was able to just shock the world by beating that team. I think 4 games to 2, and they took Utah, I think, in the second round to 6 games or something before losing. But anyway, aside from that, the Warriors have been a joke franchise for a long time, underachieving, poor franchise, you know, since the '80s. Mark Jackson comes along and he instills confidence in a young Steph Curry, a young Klay Thompson, a very young Draymond Green. And they go from being a team that was maybe about a 500 team to being a team that I remember in a series took the Spurs to the limit. You know, so that run with Mark Jackson was the precipice to what we see now. It was the beginning of this remarkable run that we've seen with this franchise over the past 4 or 5 seasons. It was started by Mark Jackson. Now, I'm not knocking Steve Kerr. I think he's a decent coach, but I think he's the beneficiary of being a coach of a tremendously talented organization. Kind of like how Billy Cunningham was the coach of the Philadelphia 76ers back in the late 70s and early 80s. Billy Cunningham was a pretty good coach, but he was the beneficiary of playing on one of the most talented, coaching one of the most talented rosters in the NBA. And you can't think of how many times that Sixers team came up short in the finals or in the playoffs when they should have won a championship or gone further. It took the acquisition of Moses Malone in the summer of '82 for that team to get over the hump. And that was a super team, by the way, too. But yeah, Mark Jackson does deserve another coaching opportunity. I think it's absolutely blasphemous that this guy, pardon the pun, but it's blasphemous that this guy hasn't received a coaching interview, let alone a position. How is he not even being interviewed for a coaching position? It's ridiculous. That's all I got to say about it, man. Tell me